Handoff Adrian up the middle, room to the 20, cuts to the left to the 25, and Adrian's loose! He splits the defense! 50, 40, 30, goodbye, baby! Touchdown!
We bleed purple, and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores.
Hey there, Vikings fans. Thank you for listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. Adam Carlson is out there eating his soup, ready to talk about the Vikings. We have a lot to say about this week's efforts or lack thereof by the team, but more on that later.
Absolutely. I'd like to welcome everyone to episode number 68 of the Purple People podcast. I got kind of lazy, I apologize, so this one is called the Lincoln Hoyer.
Hey.
It's kind of like lawyer, I don't know.
Hey, that works for me. As you guys know, I'm sure if you're a Vikings fans, there's no way you don't know this, but the score of the game, 27-31, we got beat by a color, ladies and gentlemen, the Cleveland Browns. Not a ferocious animal, not a lion, not a bear, not even a Packer. We got beat by a color. Think about that for a minute.
Orange is a pretty dangerous color, though. You gotta respect orange.
Apparently so, because
even though they're brown, I never really understood that too much. But hey, that's their team.
Yeah.
Let's get into our quick hits before we start talking about that game a little bit more. Because there's some happy stuff in this quick hits here. I like happy stuff.
We gotta start off on a good note before we get to lots of brown.
Hey, Kyle, do you like the band Kiss?
Honestly, no.
See, I really don't either.
Yeah.
No offense to Kiss lovers out there, but Gene Simmons will be singing the national anthem at the London game against the Steelers, so if you're a big fan, check it out.
That's probably gonna go horrible. That would be my guess.
It wasn't that great when he did it in Oakland last year, but who knows, second time's a charm, right? Isn't that how that saying goes?
I don't know. Third time wasn't a charm for us today.
No. Christian Ballard left the team because he says he doesn't have love for the game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't fun, and he will most likely not return to the team.
Yeah, after this week's performance, he's probably pretty happy that he left the team.
But the Vikings do have rights to him for the next 2 years, so if he does decide to return, he will be a Viking.
Which I don't expect that to happen.
No. This was one of Kyle West's favorites, which I think isn't cool, but Kyle West absolutely loves. This was Greg Jennings signing a mini helmet at an autograph signing, and he wrote Packers stuff on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Packer fans already don't like Jennings, so this isn't going to help any.
Who cares about Packers fans? I think it's cool that he does that. You know, he did it jokingly and probably with a smile on his face, and I'm sure that's what the fan wanted. I'm sure they asked him, hey, can you write Packers suck on this? And that's cool. I love it.
Andrew Sendejo, safety, special agents player. Special agent? I don't know.
Special agent.
Special team. Yeah, he's a special agent, too. I wasn't supposed to say that. Damn it. But he signed a 2-year extension with the Vikings. We saw Andrew Sendejo playing safety a lot in this game today, and I thought he played fairly well in place of all the injured Vikings down the line, so congratulations to Andrew Sendejo.
Mm-hmm.
Former Vikings quarterback Donovan McNabb had his number retired by the Eagles on Thursday. Congrats to him.
I hear the Vikings are going to retire a can of soup in his honor.
Rhett Ellison was out for the Browns game with a knee injury. No word on how long the timetable is on Rhett yet, but get well soon.
Hopefully he's back soon because we need all the talent on this roster that we can muster.
Speaking of injuries, Chris Cook, groin injury.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that Chris Cook guy.
Yeah, we'll get more on Cook here later on in the show, but always seems to be injured. Always something with Chris.
Now, our last one is just something that kind of blew our minds a little bit. Now, I'm going to butcher the last name, and I'm really sorry about this. But John Dosedal? I don't know. But either way, you're on our Facebook page, and you commented about how you remembered a joke that we told about Mistral Raymond's name.
Mm-hmm.
And it absolutely made our day. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for commenting. We love all the feedback that we get, and yeah, thanks for the support, everyone. That's really cool.
And let's go right into our game ball and our donkey.
Okay, I'm giving a game ball to absolutely no one because there's not a single player on this roster or coach that was deserving of anything after this one.
I had a toss-up between two players.
Mm-hmm.
I had Jeff Locke, who I felt had a solid day punting.
Understandable, I could see that.
But I ended up going with Harrison Smith. He had a great read on an interception. He played the field pretty well, tackled fairly well,
Mm-hmm.
and as far as I'm concerned, he deserves the honors this week.
Yeah, he's a superstar stud. Only gonna go good places. Has a really bright future for the Vikings. Knows for the big play all around. One of the bright spots on the team that you can look for sure.
Now this donkey, I was hoping I'd never have to name this donkey because I pushed so hard for the Vikings to re-sign this guy, and they ended up paying him more than a lot of people thought he was worth. But Phil Lodeholt got beat so much in this game. So Phil Lodeholt, I'm sorry, man. You're my donkey this week.
I am going to, and I had a plethora of options to choose, for sure this week. But every now and then, you just got to go with the obvious choice. Christian Ponder, you are my donkey. Because
Interesting.
you had your chance at the end of the game to do your Brett Favre moment to lead the Vikings down the field with 52 seconds or whatever it was left on the clock and get the score that they needed, and you just absolutely
Donkeyed it away.
you donkeyed it away on that performance. And yeah, you know what? As soon as he came out, I told everyone that I was in the room with that there's absolutely no way that he drove that team down the field to a score, because it's reached the point where I do not have faith in his ability to do that in that situation.
Well, Ponder does have 4 career fourth quarter comebacks. So it's not like it's something that he's never done before. But the way that, well, we'll talk about this later after we, wait, no, that was our donkeys. So
Let's get right into this, Adam.
Now, the running game stalled.
Again.
Adrian Peterson struggled, and I'll say I knew he was going to because I read my article on the Viking Age about the Cleveland Browns run defense and why Adrian Peterson wasn't going to get 100 yards today. So, knowing that, I knew that a lot of today was going to be on Christian Ponder. Now, Ponder may not have lit things up through the air. He didn't. But he made a lot of plays with his feet. He scored 14 points just by scrambling alone.
On accident.
I think he didn't accidentally fall in the end
That's what
zone.
I think about those 2 scrambles, is that he accidentally scored 2 touchdowns for the Vikings. Those they count, but they don't count in a positive way, I think, because I don't care if he can scramble and run for yards. We don't need him to do that.
We need him to do that.
We need him,
especially with the offensive line playing the way they are.
We need him to manage the game and get the football in the hands of Greg Jennings and Cordero Patterson and Kyle Rudolph. We don't need him to run a read option play with nobody to option the football to and then just run forward and get in for a touchdown. That's cool. I'm glad he can do that. I'm glad that's part of the game, but that's not what we're paying you to do. He's not RG3 or Cam Newton or...
He's not much slower than those guys. He ran a very fast 40 at the combine.
Don't care. Don't need him to do that.
And I'm really happy for the touchdowns that he gave us. I just wish he could have done more through the air. The one interception was a tipped ball, probably to a receiver he shouldn't have thrown to anyways. And I'll concede to that.
Stupid decision.
But without that tip, we have no idea of knowing if the pass is going to be complete or not or what. So
if it wasn't tipped, it was probably going to go incomplete, or based on the coverage that was around Jerome, it was probably going to get picked off up there if it didn't get picked off back there. So just dumb decision that he should not be doing at this stage.
And the fumble was a pressure that came around on my donkey, Phil Lodeholt's side,
Hmm.
that just ran straight around and hit Ponder's arm, and then that was it.
And on the
I'm not trying to make excuses for Ponder,
yes,
because I am a Ponder supporter, but I'm not a Ponder apologist. He makes mistakes. He looks
hmm
nervous. He scrambles too much. He drifts out of the pocket. These are all mistakes that he can
hmm
correct, but we haven't seen him do it. And until that happens, I'm going to keep losing faith in him.
and on the flip side, our offensive line play today, and it has been so far this season, has been so poor that they're not doing Christian any favors because all day today the Browns were up in Ponder's face. He was getting
Yes.
smacked around, he was getting banged around, he was not having the proper time to make reads, and defenses know that that's how you get to Ponder. That's how you get him to make the mistakes that he's going to make, is by getting that pressure to him. And it's sort of teams have it figured out on how to stop the Vikings, and our linemen are not doing him any favors at the moment either.
No, not at
Mhm.
all.
I want to get
Ponder was sacked 6 times in this game,
yeah.
and he managed to evade quite a few.
Hmm.
So you know that he was running. But a good quarterback will have those drop off options, the quick reads. He will have all those ready. And to be honest, this team just didn't look
Hmm.
prepared.
Okay, we kind of got off. We started off with running backs, and we went really quickly into Ponder there. I want to backtrack for a minute and talk about Adrian Peterson.
Sounds good.
Part of, and this is my opinion on what we're seeing with Peterson so far in these 3 games. I think it comes back to the new running back rule that they passed, where you can't lower your head and make the big hits like what we've seen Peterson do in the past. I think he's trying not to get himself flagged for that, and it's causing him to run more upright and look more rigid. And I think that's why you're seeing him now fumble the ball, and you're not seeing him get the kind of yardage that we're used to. If you look back at this Browns game and some of his better runs that he had, you've seen him go back to more of that lowering his head and shoulder and plowing through people. And
His best run against the Browns was 9 yards.
yeah, and that was the one where he just kind of lowered and plowed down and got those 9 yards. And he looked more like the Adrian that we're used to seeing. In my opinion, he needs to do that until they flag him. Like, screw it, just lower your shoulders and try to get your head out of the way and just run through it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on. If it's a confidence issue, if it's a fear of the penalties, if it's frustration,
No Jerome,
I don't know what
no
it is.
Jerome Felton.
It's true.
Yeah.
Could be that too. Not to mention that Red Ellison was gone for this game too, so they were relying on Zach Line for a lot of the blocking back there.
Mm-hmm.
So after Adrian Peterson and after Christian Ponder, offensively, there's still not much to talk about on this team.
No, there's not. We've seen them give at least a little bit more of an effort to get Cordero Patterson involved in the game,
Absolutely.
which is a step in the right direction. I still don't understand why it's so friggin' hard for them to get Jennings and Rudolph and Patterson going in this passing game. And I don't know who the correct person to place the blame on this one is, whether it's Bill Musgrave, our offensive coordinator, or Christian Ponder for targeting Jerome Simpson too much and maybe not looking to Patterson deep or Jennings, wherever he is on the field. I don't know where you place the blame, but they're not getting it done on getting the ball to the correct people.
What was the problem with the strategy last year, where the Vikings would have the small dump-off passes, and you'd see a guy like Percy Harvin take that ball and get yards with it with the blockers in front of him.
Yeah.
They've got guys that can do that. Cordero Patterson can do that. Jarius Wright can do that. Heck, even Greg Jennings can do that. I mean, we're seeing just a complete redefinition of this Vikings offense. And what they're trying isn't working. And I'm wondering how many weeks they're going to keep trying and failing before some kind of change comes.
One more week. We have this London game coming up, and with the team flying out, I don't know when they fly out. It's got to be soon. I think they're kind of in hunker down, get past this, hope for the best with what we're doing. We got the bye week, and then with that bye week, they can completely pull apart and explode offensively and defensively, schematically, what they're doing, and get a new plan in place coming off that bye moving forward. At least that would be my hope.
I hope so too.
Running
the ball, we saw Toby Gerhart. A small amount.
Who
We saw
cares?
Christian Ponder.
I mean, I hate to be so negative, but I'm at the point where who cares? I mean, it.
Well, Cordero Patterson, this is the point I was getting to. They manufactured an end around for him, although there was no gain on the play. It was nice to see something different.
I like that. I had an idea. I'm no offensive coordinator, but I was trying to think at the end, towards the end of the game too, is that, what I would come up with to try to help manufacture some yards for this offense and do it in a way that, you got to keep in mind that Christian's under heavy duress, and maybe he's not the best at making those deep, accurate throws down the field. And I came back to Joe Webb, a player that I'm not the highest on, but his strong suit is his legs and his ability to make plays with them. Why couldn't you run like a wide receiver screen with Joe Webb, where you throw it to him short, you give him a couple guys to block in front of him, and you let him zig and zag and do what he can with his legs?
Absolutely.
I think that would be a creative solution for Bill Musgrave. And you could do that same thing with Cordero Patterson. You could run it with Jarius Wright. That would be, I think, a good...
They could split wide receivers on either side. They could have Peterson in the backfield. They could have one guy running deeper routes. The two guys there with the blockers. It could really be something special because the defense wouldn't know where to protect. I don't know. To me, I think that this is just stale. This offense is stale.
It's stale. It's predictable. It's bland. It's boring. I feel like you could go on and on and on about it. And defenses have us figured out. They know if they can stop Adrian from running the ball, that also gets pressure to Christian Ponder and gets him off his game, and it just goes downhill from there. And the Vikings and Bill Musgrave have to figure a way to blow the lid off from defenses and force them to pull back in coverage. They have to find a way to do that.
Yeah, when defenses take away the run game and those short passes, this Vikings offense really gets confused, really gets stymied, and they really lose track of their focus.
Yeah, and I've seen other people complaining about it's the lack of having a true number one wide receiver. I don't agree with that statement at all. We've got plenty of receivers on this team who are plenty talented. Greg Jennings can make plays. He's got excellent hands. He runs really crisp routes. He can get you yards after the catch. We know about Cordero Patterson. We know about Jarius Wright and Joe Webb and those guys. We got plenty of talent. We just got to find a way to get the ball to them.
It's true. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball, and let's talk about a couple of the stars over there, because there were a couple really good players. First off, let's talk about Aaron Henderson.
Okay.
Aaron Henderson, 6 solo tackles, 2 assists. He had 2 sacks on the day with an interception. This is really a career day for Aaron Henderson.
It is. You're seeing him maturate and come into his own a little bit. And I feel like with this Vikings defense, when you talk about them, you really need to split them in half. And you need to talk about the guys up front and the guys in back. Because the guys up front, and I'm talking about our D-line, and like you said, Henderson and those guys,
The front
the
seven.
front seven, are playing really good football for the Minnesota Vikings right now. It's our back half that is not playing good. But let's talk about our front half guys, because I feel like we can be more positive about them right now.
Well, the defensive line I didn't think really got going until the second half. But we did see things like Kevin Williams defend a pass, Greenway defended a pass and got an interception.
Sharif Floyd.
Brian Robinson played well, had a sack, 3 tackles. Even Desmond Bishop got in there and added 2.5 tackles. Good to see him get in there and play.
I think you've seen Sharif Floyd came up good for the Vikings on that deflected pass as well too.
That's true.
So you've got plenty of talent that are heading in the right direction on that part of the Vikings D. They need to step it up in the run game. I know that wasn't as much of a factor this week because the Browns don't have it. They just traded their running back. They did get gashed on that. What was that one play? That 2nd and 20. You know which one I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
It was late in the game. They were able to run for like a 30-yard something or other. But other than that one, though, I think they did pretty good stopping the run, considering that Cleveland wasn't going to be running the ball a whole bunch to begin with.
Right. Now, it's not like the Browns didn't give the Vikings a chance, because the Vikings did force turnovers. But the Vikings also gave up the ball just about as much, so it's really not a good thing when your team is not playing well and you're not decisively winning the turnover battle. Now, one play that really just burns in my head, and that every time I think about it I get mad, is from a guy that I actually like. I like A.J. Jefferson. I do. But man, did Josh Gordon toast him.
Yeah, he got
on that route for the touchdown.
He got burnt pretty bad on that one. And it comes down to having someone like Chris Cook, who has a history of getting injured and not being reliable, and is basically someone you can't count on. And not having the correct depth, I guess you could say, underneath him to when he goes out, you need to have someone who can step in and not get completely toasted like that.
But let's give some credit where credit's due. When he got injured, Marcus Sherrills came in too. And we saw Sherrills get 8 tackles.
He stepped it up.
Leading the team in tackles, 2 defended passes. Marcus Sherrills was a strong candidate for the game ball this week.
Yeah, he was flying all over the field. When his number was called upon, he took advantage of the situation, and I like to see that. We definitely need to see that from this team, from a lot more players. So, game ball to Marcus Sherrills for sure.
Yeah, we didn't see A.J. Jefferson register a single tackle. He didn't defend a single pass. I like him, but he needs to step it up big time.
If you're Rick Spielman, are you on the phone right now as we are recording this podcast with Antoine Winfield, basically apologizing to him and pleading with him to come back to the team? Because I am.
You'd kind of have to.
Yeah, I am.
And I hate to say it, I'm a huge Winfield supporter, and I'd love to see this team be able to move on without him and have Winfield relax at home with his family and friends.
Oh, sure.
And have a barbecue or whatever they do, I don't know. But this team does need him.
We need him on Sundays. And he is he's a vested veteran, knows the defense. Last year, they sat him, didn't play him at all in preseason. So I really feel like he could come back, and he worked all offseason with the Seahawks. You know he's basically still in football shape. He can come back, he can contribute to this team right now. And we need Antoine back.
Absolutely.
We need that veteran leadership for this secondary, because they look lost, in my opinion, right now.
Well, the depth didn't look so bad at the beginning of the season, but now that the injuries are coming
Hmm.
down, we're seeing injuries to Cook, Sanford, Raymond still isn't healthy. I mean, we're really just going down the list, and the depth that's in the secondary is just kind of falling apart. We're seeing guys play that normally sometimes wouldn't be active.
Marcus Sherrills is a perennial special teams player who basically makes the team because he can do kickoff and punt returns. And yes, we've seen him step up and play at an admirable level today, but you're counting on a guy who basically has only made your roster before on special teams abilities. And that's not really a situation you want to be put in, and we should be thankful that he played at the level he did today.
Absolutely. But this Vikings defense, their pass defense in particular, has a lot to leave, well, a lot to hope
Hmm.
for. Because we saw Josh Gordon. Now, I am not a huge Josh Gordon fan. The guy is talented. He's got heightened speed. But to give up 146
Yeah.
yards, and most of those in the first half,
And
is just unbelievable. Jordan Cameron, the tight end, 66 yards on 6 catches, 3 touchdowns. Insane.
and this is from a Cleveland Browns team that, what, 5 days ago traded off their best player to the Colts for a first round draft pick, and everyone is talking. Third string quarterback is in there because Brandon Weeden, who basically sucks to begin with, is out, and
Right.
they got their third string quarterback in. Everyone's talking about how they've pulled the plug on the season and the Vikings will be able to walk away with this, and look at what they're able to do. And it's just,
People really underestimated Cleveland's defense and the heart of this Cleveland team. I bet you that in that Cleveland locker room, they had poster boards and poster boards about people saying how, oh, they traded their best player, they're throwing the season, they're tanking for Teddy, or whatever the saying
yeah,
is.
suck for luck, whatever the
Guess what?
equivalent to
This
that is.
Browns team isn't bad.
I don't know. Personally, I hate to say this, but it's kind of going to be, I bet, one of those dumb, fluky performances that only happens against the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm talking about you know how Matt Flynn comes out and has one good game his entire career, and it's against the Minnesota Vikings? Well,
Right.
I've already forgotten the name of the Browns quarterback, and this will be his one good game, and it'll be against the Minnesota Vikings, because that's just our luck here in Minnesota.
While I'm mentioning the Browns wide receivers, I can't help but mention Devon Bess, who had another really nice game for them. And he is a guy that really you can ask to do anything, one of those NFL veterans that you can do anything with.
Hmm.
And the Vikings had a lot of trouble containing both him and Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon was targeted 19 times in this game. If that tells you anything as far as how the Browns were playing this offense, it was through Josh Gordon.
Hmm.
All right, so
Coaching staff. We gotta touch on coaching staff here briefly.
I wanted to talk about those fake punts and the fake punt and the fake kick.
Oh,
1
okay,
minute, though.
okay. We'll do special teams, then we'll move into coaching staff.
Now, the special teams play is usually very solid for the Vikings. They're a well-coached group of individuals, but they just completely missed Cameron on the sideline, and that's a point where a coach on the sideline or someone like that signals for a timeout when they see that player split way out there with nobody on him. That is a play that it's heads up anyone on the team can make. They just have to signal for that timeout, and then that doesn't happen.
It's like
But it happens.
it's like watching a high school play that shouldn't work at a professional level, and somehow it does, and you're just mystified as to, wait, what just happened? They did what? Like, really? That's like high school shit that we just seen.
But what's sad is when you're at your job, right?
Yeah,
You get so used to what you're doing that you end up just going through the motions.
yeah.
And to me, it seemed like a lot of the players on this Vikings team were just going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay, I got to do this to make it look like I'm trying to block a field goal or
Yeah.
block a punt, and no, you actually have to do it.
And you listen to Frazier's press conference, he admitted that they were aware of the fact of the situation that the Browns were in, and they expected, and these are, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said that they expected them to pull out anything and everything to get a win. So with that in mind, how did we allow this to happen again?
I really
Yeah,
don't know.
neither do I.
All right, let's go and talking about the coaching. You go ahead and lead that one off.
Okay, I don't think we're quite at the point where we need to say fire Leslie Frazier, fire Leslie Frazier, but we're getting close to that point, and I don't quite know what the tipping point is going to be per se, but 0-4 going into the bye week is a good starting point to be having those conversations for sure. I do think he's got more job security than Bill Musgrave.
Yeah.
Bill Musgrave has to be, if he was on a short leash last week, this week I think he's got to be on a choke chain. uh, because I don't know how much longer you can put up with the way the play calling has been going for the Vikings. But at the same time, I don't know if that's a move that you can really rectify mid-season.
It's true. It's going to be tough to see.
Yeah.
I don't know. As a fan watching the game, it's bad when you feel that frustrated that you know not what play is coming, but you know the result of the play.
Yeah.
And all this game was close. And essentially every game so far this year for the Vikings has been close.
Mm-hmm.
These are games they won last year. This year they are not. Why? What's the difference?
They're being out.
That's what we have to figure out.
Well, they're being out-coached. I mean, I don't think there's any other reason you can say other than that. I mean, you look at that special teams, the fake field goal. They got out-coached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this Browns team, fans really expected them to come out and just
Lay down.
give it up.
Yeah. We expected him to lay down and for the Vikings to kind of steamroll over him a little bit. And
I spent all week on my Viking Age page and on the Facebook page talking about how this team does have talent, especially on defense.
mm-hmm.
And still fans are giving these projections like, oh, the Vikings are going to win 37-0 or something like that. And really, this isn't any given Sunday kind of thing. This Browns team has heart. They had the desire to win, and I didn't see that from the Vikings. The one time I really saw fire in this game was when Christian Ponder went after one of the opposing players after a play.
Yeah, which was, I guess, nice to see. But at the same time, I'm thinking, Ponder, just get back in the huddle and use that fire instead of yelling at someone. Use it to complete a pass downfield.
Yeah, don't go get your butt kicked and
Yeah,
shatter your arm on a helmet or something.
precisely.
But still, it's good to see that kind of fire out of someone because we don't see it, even from the coaching staff
Mm-hmm.
all the way down to the players. We see it from the fans in the stands, but that's about
Mm-hmm.
it. Where's the fire? Where's the love?
Do you think, Adam, that Leslie Frazier will be the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings come kickoff 2014?
That's tough to say because we're looking at a team that I'm not going to try to put a number of wins on it either. But right now, if the season continues going the way it is and the Vikings only pick up 3-4 wins the entire season, I'm going to say we're going to see almost an entire retooling of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sad after coming off being a playoff team, and just going into the crapper that fast.
Again. It's
Yeah,
a
again.
repeat, folks. This is like a repeat of 2010. It's like 09 playoffs. You bring back largely the same roster. You get the result that you got in 010. Last year, playoffs, you bring back largely the same roster, although you do retool positions like wide receiver and whatnot, but look at the result you're getting. It's almost mystifying that this can be happening seemingly again to the squad.
It's true.
Mhm.
And that's all I have for this week. Do you have anything that you want to add?
No, I think that'll pretty much cover it. I think this Steelers game, and it's cliched to say, but it's going to be really important for the Vikings. If they lose, I fully expect something big is going to happen coming into the bye week. There's almost no way that doesn't happen. Whether that...
Yeah, a loss against Pittsburgh in London, it would really be crushing. I mean, 3-0 is, or being 0-3 is devastating. Being 0-4, that should turn on at least some light bulbs. To me, I'd be turning on the light bulbs already.
Oh,
I'd be laying down some law. I'd be putting down some threats. If I were Rick Spielman, I would definitely be sitting down and talking with everyone, saying, "Hey, what's the problem? I want this fixed immediately. You're a coach. Do what you have to do. I gave you the talent.
mhm.
You make the talent win."
And I think, Adam, you would almost be naive to not think after this game, Spielman has to have had a private phone call with Mark and Ziggy Wilf and had precisely the conversation that me and you just had about this coaching squad. Because Spielman
You'd hope so.
Spielman has nothing invested in Leslie Frazier.
No.
Nothing at all. So keep that in mind coming into the London game.
All right, with that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and remind everyone to stay classy, Minnesota.
We bleed purple and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome. Behold, we are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores. We roar, ignite the stands. We bleed purple and our bones are gold. We're the kings of the north. Our slogan skull. No Packer, no bear, no lion can beat us. We will punish anyone if they try to defeat us. He's the MVP. Appreciated greatly, running all day, 2K, that's AP. Make a defense cry, or maybe beg. ACL stands for Adrian's crazy leg. He's the heart of the team, 28, holding up that Lombardi is a part of the dream. We will never give up, we find the faith to move past.